Friends, it's a very great honour to introduce the General Secretary of the STUC, Roz Foyer.
Thank you. Conference convener, Roz Foyer, General Secretary of the STUC, first time speaker at this conference. And friends, I want to start by thanking you for inviting me to address your conference today. And I address you as a representative of over 550,000 workers who belong to Scotland's trade union movement. And on behalf of those workers, I welcome the approach from every single SNP First Minister since you've formed the Scottish Government to treat trade unions as critical, respected partners in the business of that government. And I also welcome that one of the first actions of your current First Minister, John Swinney, when he took up office last year, was to engage directly with the STUC. He wanted to hear firsthand what issues mattered most to the workers of Scotland, from public sector pay to the cost of living crisis to Grangemouth. And for us, that's really critical to have a First Minister who understands the role trade unions have in the tapestry of Scotland, one who understands that trade union issues are the issues that matter to the people of Scotland. And over recent years, your government has addressed many of those issues. The government has increased the Scottish Child Payment that's lifted thousands of people out of poverty, and that is a trade union issue. You've taken a rail operator into public ownership and ended peak fares, and that is a trade union issue. Last month, you introduced an absolutely groundbreaking furlough scheme at Alexander Dennis to protect jobs and protect our industry, and that is a trade union issue. And your progressive income tax changes have raised an additional £1.7 billion in revenue to spend on supporting people in poverty and defending our creaking public services, and that too is a trade union issue. And I also want to say that through a decade and a half of attacks on trade union freedom, you've remained steadfast in supporting us. And on that note, Conference, I want to pay tribute to Chris Stevens, because as an MP, Chris was at every picket line, at every protest and at every single vote, every single time our movement needed an ally and a voice inside Westminster. And now, with Scotland's long-standing commitment to fair work and the UK Government's new Employment Rights Bill coming in, we can look forward with some hope to a country where decent rights for workers can again become a driving force for dignity and economic growth. But of course, respecting workers' voice and respecting the work they do means sometimes hearing things you might not like to hear. And the key messages we're sending today to both our Scottish and our UK governments is that we need rapid action and more rapid delivery on the priorities of working class people. Because the UK government has so far failed to deliver on too many of the changes they promised. They failed to lift the two-child benefit cap. They failed our pensioners by cutting the winter fuel allowance. They failed those in need by trying to decimate our welfare system. They continue to fail to realise that taxing wealth is the first step in the delivery of public services and that a fair financial settlement for Scotland is necessary. While internationally, as we all pray for a lasting ceasefire, they have failed to acknowledge the genocide that has been perpetrated against the Palestinian people. In conference, when governments fail to act, there are consequences. The people of Scotland are demanding better. They want to see the changes that were promised to them. And we in the trade union movement will not stand silent while austerity continues to cause carnage in our working class communities, and working people are feeling forgotten and betrayed. Because every cut made, every promise broken, every opportunity to act that is missed by both our governments kills off people's hope and trust in politics. It poisons our democracy, and unfortunately it is a gift to the far right. And I want to be clear, cuts are cuts and we condemn them, whether the source of that decision lies with Holyrood or Westminster, and without fear or favour. So here in Scotland, when our teachers are pushed to the point of balloting for industrial action over workload, it's time for the Scottish Government to act. When bad bosses routinely flout fair work agreements and still receive public funds, it's time to act. When firefighters, the people who risk their lives to keep us all safe, sound the alarm over fire station closures, it's time to act. When our university workers are balloting over a jobs and cuts crisis and FE colleges are shutting down campuses, it's time to act. And when our social care workers are still so short of the £15 an hour that in truth they should have had a decade ago, then it's definitely time to act. And there's no time to lose, conference. The dangers are clear and growing daily. And in times like these, progressive Scotland needs to unite. It needs to unite those of every party, union, religion, sex and more. We need to come together and celebrate our diversity shoulder to shoulder with our migrants, with refugees, with Muslims, with the Jewish people who were so horrifically targeted in Manchester last week, with trans people, with women being targeted by the far right and all others in need. Earlier this week, conference, I was proud to join a platform of women from across Scotland, including Councillor Nadia El Nakla and former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, at the launch of the Women Against the Far Right campaign. And our message was really clear. We will not outsource our safety to anyone, let alone those who seek to colonise our voice and further an agenda of hatred and division. And it's no surprise, conference, that those who would sow division here are also the friends of the invaders abroad. Farage chooses Putin, we choose the Ukrainian people. They choose Netanyahu and we choose the children of Gaza. And I want to pay particular tribute to the humanity of Humza Yousaf. In his time as First Minister, when the world's leaders failed to condemn genocide, Humza spoke out. And as we speak out against malign forces abroad, I want to welcome John Swinney's leadership in calling out malign forces at home. Because when the First Minister called a summit against the far right in Scotland earlier this year, the STUC was among the first to sign up. And as I said to him and all the partners present in the room, though, a summit can't be a talking shop. It must be the start of a process. And there's a need to reflect on the responsibility of government to be part of the solution by more directly addressing the poverty and real challenges that far too many of us across Scotland are facing. Be under no illusion, the road of ever-increasing inequality is the road to ruin for our society. And those in our communities who feel abandoned and forgotten need to believe that they've got a government that's fighting in their corner They need secure work that pays the bills and gives their families the dignity of decent living standards. They need high-quality public services, health, education, transport and social care that supports them to navigate life successfully. And they need affordable, high-quality housing. For Scottish Government, that means scrapping the council tax and introducing a truly proportional property tax. And it means introducing specific wealth taxes that can happen here and now within the current powers of the Scottish Parliament. This week conference, the STUC, alongside Tax Justice Scotland, revealed the staggering extent of the wealth gap, with just 5 families in Scotland having as much wealth, almost £20 billion, as a quarter of our population. While a mere 2% wealth tax on Scotland's 10 richest families could raise almost £500 million. That equates to almost 13,000 nurses or 17,000 home care workers. Now, almost 80% of Scots support a wealth tax, and we need a Scottish Government to embrace popular, progressive policies like these. With these levels of inequality, the days of politicians being all things to all people have gone. Our people need politicians who are prepared to stand up against the bosses and the billionaires. And that's where I want to pay tribute to the SNP's trade union group, who for years, alongside members right across this hall, have secured progressive policies on tax, on public energy, on achieving a just transition, on a truly public national care service, and much more besides. These are the SNP policies that we must see Scottish Government go further and faster on, and I implore everyone in this hall to call on our government to realise the progressive, worker-led ideas you've already passed as party policy. Because if we do that, we realise a just transition for Scotland's workers, based on a fully formed industrial strategy that strengthens our supply chain and prioritises domestic manufacturing. That means boats and ships built in Scotland, forged in the steelworks of DL by the people of Scotland. It means fully backing nationalised industry and giving a direct award such as the Lord of the Isles ferry contract to Ferguson Marine, which will bring longer-term benefits for the wider community in Inverclyde. And we know that Scotland needs the power to do better. We need stronger powers over borrowing, over migration, over employment and over taxation, and much more. Of course, there's different views across our movement, and yes, even across yours, on how such powers are best delivered. But I've got no hesitation in saying this. Whatever the constitutional future of Scotland may hold, it must be the people of Scotland who decide. And if the question of self-determination arises again, if there is a pro-independence majority in the Scottish Parliament, then it is for our Parliament, Scotland's Parliament, to hold that referendum if it so chooses. Because that is democracy. And if that's the will of Scotland's people, then no Westminster government should deny that wish. But whatever happens about our constitutional future, our people can't afford to wait any longer. The decisions made in the next 6 to 9 months on tax, on public services, and on whose side our politicians are on will be crucial for generations to come. To borrow a phrase, We must work as if we live in the early days of a better nation, and that work needs to start now. So on the 25th of October in Edinburgh, the trade union movement, alongside the Poverty Alliance and the whole of Civic Scotland, will be coming together to demand better. In our Scotland Demands Better march and rally, we're uniting the people to demand the changes that we need to build a society where everyone can thrive and prosper. This powerful coalition will reject the politics of hatred and division, but we are absolutely demanding radical change and an urgent shift towards the politics of delivery. And we need you too. We need everyone in this hall and everyone across Scotland to rally together in unity against those that want to divide us. And that's my closing message to you. When we come together, working people possess more power than we dare to realise. Everyone in this hall possesses that power, and when people come together with clear demands, governments are compelled to deliver. Scotland already has the wealth, we already have the talent, we have the resources to build a fairer, greener and more equal nation. If you share in that vision, then get involved. Let's make October the 25th the day that we unite all working people across Scotland who want a more progressive Scotland, where every person and every community prospers, and let's march forward together. Solidarity, and thank you, Conference.
Thank you.